Hello, my name is Josephine, and along with Jessica, Madeline, and Mia, we are going to be presenting on Iowa energy sources. So first, I'm just going to talk about sources that are available. First, in Iowa, we use wind as the number one source of power, coal is number two, natural gas is number three, and then from there, nuclear, hydroelectric, other sources, petroleum, and solar power. However, there are other energy sources available in Iowa, including ethanol, biomass, and oils. However, these sources are not as commonly used in Iowa. Some energy sources in Iowa are underutilized, and solar energy is one of them. Along with sources provided on the previous slide, there are other options that we could be using that we are not. First, I'm going to talk about the economics of wind usage. First, wind usage provides the lowest cost source of electricity generation in Iowa. This helps us to keep utility costs low, it supports 7,000 to 8,000 jobs, and it gives tax breaks to those who host the turbines on their property. In addition, the Iowa Environmental Council advocates for policies that encourage wind energy growth. They state that Iowa has the potential to build and sell wind energy infrastructure to other states to increase economic development and job opportunities. Some environmental impacts of wind usage that are positive include that wind usage is an emission-free source of energy. Wind turbine blades can also be recycled, fixed, and reused when they are at the end of their life. However, some negatives are degradation of wildlife habitats from building the wind turbines, and also threat to birds, bats, and other flying creatures if they were to hit the blades at all. Wind turbines also do have a history of spontaneous fires and leaking lubricating fluids. However, these are very rare. The wind turbines can also be very loud when they are on, and fossil fuels are still needed to make the materials used to build the turbines. Some social concern for wind usage include complaints of the sound and vibrations from the turbines, the fact that they are not aesthetically pleasing to look at, and that political views may change people's thoughts about the need for wind energy, because for some reason, some people believe that climate change is not real. Next, we're going to talk about the economics of coal usage. So in the last 10 years, Iowa has reduced coal usage by 50%. This causes job loss, higher utility bills, and higher taxes if the plants close in a specific city where there is a power plant. However, reducing coal usage also reduces air and water pollution. Iowa currently has 9 coal-fueled power plants. However, Alliant Energy's mission is to completely eliminate all coal-fueled power plants from its generation fleet by 2040. Some environmental impacts of coal usage that are positive include options for reducing amounts of issues caused by coal mining and the usage of coal power plants. This includes building specialized water treatment plants and recycling contaminated water. This helps get rid of a lot of the pollution that ends up in the water. You can also rehabilitate the land after you use the area to mine the coal. Some negative impacts of coal usage is that the soot causes lots of air and water pollution. Mining also causes lots of soil erosion, and you disturb the land that the animals use to graze, live, and reproduce. The article I read said one of the worst things about coal usage is that it causes environmental problems to the land and habitats when mining. However, companies can add topsoil and vegetation to help bring the land back to what it was. Some social concerns for coal usage include that there will be job loss for those working at the coal plant if one closes. It will also cause increased tax rates, more costly utility bills, and this is all in places if those power plants were to close there. However, some people believe that all coal usage in Iowa should be retired because of the pollution that it causes. So this can cause a lot of strain between people in the state.
Iowa does not produce massive amounts of natural gas. We are supplied the majority of our natural gas via a pipeline that runs from Canada to Minnesota and a Texas-Oklahoma panhandle area. From this natural gas that we receive, we ship approximately 70% of it to Illinois. Iowa's economy is very energy intensive. Our industrial sector uses a large majority of the energy we receive and produce. 49% of the state's energy consumption is from the industrial sector. In Iowa, natural gas is seen as an alternative fuel. There is an excise tax placed on natural gas. It is 31 cents to 32 cents per gallon or diesel gallon equivalent. These taxes are generally paid by businesses. Compared to other fossil fuel energies, natural gas is considered a relatively clean fossil fuel. It produces fewer emissions in CO2 than burning coal or petroleum use. It is also very abundant in supply compared to other fossil fuels. Also, the infrastructure for natural gas is pretty much in place and readily available everywhere. This means that the extra building of infrastructure, which can hurt the environment more, does not have to take place. As for negatives, there are a few. The main one is pretty obvious. It's a non-renewable energy source. It's not sustainable and will eventually disappear for good. And although it is cleaner than petroleum or burning of coal, it still releases quite a bit of CO2 and methane. Actually, quite a bit of methane gets leaked during the drilling and production stages of natural gas. During the drilling stages of natural gas production, groundwater has the potential to be contaminated. Natural gas production can be dangerous for human safety. The oil and gas wells and extraction methods release smog into the air, which can cause respiratory and cardiovascular effects on humans, specifically the young and elderly. The gas wells can also leak into the groundwater, which would completely destroy groundwater for drinking use. Also, compressor stations used in natural gas plants are incredibly noisy and very disruptive. These pipelines also seem to magically run through low-income and minority-populated areas. In 2015, there was a pipeline known as the Sable Trail, which would run directly through low-income and predominantly black towns. This presents the idea of eco-racism, which can be a thing with major oil and gas companies. Instead of putting the pipeline on a direct route through a higher income and more white area, they reroute the pipelines through places where they don't think people will fight back. Nuclear energy was never a big thing in Iowa. However, there was one nuclear power plant in Paulo, Iowa. It was called the Duane Arnold Energy Center. In 2018, it was announced that this nuclear plant would close in 2020. This would have economic effects on a good amount of people. Because of this plant closing, around 500 people would lose their jobs. People had risked it all and moved to Paulo in order to work at this power plant, and now they would be losing money. However, it would have a positive economic effect on Alliant Energy and its customers. The closing of the plant saw a 2.3 to 3% decrease in prices on energy and fuel costs. This made it sound like nuclear power plant was not actually saving money for anyone. What are the positives of nuclear energy? The main one is that it technically is a zero-emission energy source. Nuclear power reactors actually do not create direct CO2 emissions, which is sort of surprising. This is because nuclear energy creates power through the act of fission, which happens when uranium atoms split to produce energy. Also, the land footprint of nuclear energy plants is relatively small in comparison to other clean energy sources. Wind turbine farms and solar panels can take up quite a bit of land, while according to Energy.gov, a 1,000 megawatt nuclear facility only needs approximately a little more than 1 square mile to operate. As for the negatives, there are some considerably big ones. For instance, nuclear energy creates a lot of dangerous radioactive waste. It's very difficult to store this waste, and it will be around for a very long time. If leaked, the radioactive waste could be detrimental to the surrounding land. Also, decommissioning process of nuclear plants can potentially hurt the environment as well. It's a painstaking process that is dangerous because of the fact that power plant systems are very contaminated. As for social concerns, the main one is the very poor image surrounding nuclear power. When people think of nuclear power, they automatically think of its disasters: Fukushima, 3 Mile, and Chernobyl. These are all instances in which something went terribly wrong at nuclear power plants. Because of these instances, people paint nuclear power in a bad light. They see it as only dangerous and never helpful. Now, on the other side of that coin, it's important to note the social concern of the danger. The danger surrounding nuclear energy is a real thing. Specifically cited are the 3 cases mentioned before. These accidents caused injury in regards to physical injury, linked to cancer cases, evacuation, and in some cases even death. So, it's obviously important to be aware of the dangers surrounding nuclear energy, but it's also important to not only think of it in a bad light.
So next I'm going to talk about the economics of petroleum usage. First, Iowa does not produce its own petroleum, and it has to rely on pipelines from other states to bring that petroleum in. The consumption of petroleum in Iowa is very low. Iowa also delivers most of its ethanol to U.S. fuel markets that require motor gasoline blended with ethanol. Some environmental impacts of petroleum include that it is easy and therefore it is cheap to extract. It works with current infrastructure, not only in Iowa, but in the entire United States. It is a very stable energy source, and it is good for multiple uses, including vehicle fuels, heating, electricity, asphalt, plastic, medical equipment, and more. However, negatively, it creates many polluting emissions, including carbon dioxide. This type of thing leads to climate change. Drilling and refining processes also destroy the environment. Some social concerns of petroleum usage include oil spills, climate change, and drilling. Oil spills can damage the environment and the wildlife. It can also cause physical, mental, and financial stress on individuals and cities where the oil spill occurs. Oil spills can also lead to tourism reduction because not many people want to travel to a place where there is an oil spill. The commonality of oil spills and climate change are the biggest concerns regarding the use of petroleum. As mentioned on the previous slides, petroleum causes the production of emissions and carbon dioxide, which increases climate change. Individuals and communities have an issue with this because we are ruining the world we live in for future generations. Drilling also destroys the environment, which bothers people for the same reason. Next, we're going to talk about the economics of solar usage. The cost of use has decreased in the past years, and it is expected to continue to get cheaper. Tax breaks are currently available to those who use solar power as their main energy source. Solar power use has given 5,200 jobs to Iowans. In some areas, it's actually cheaper to use solar power than it is to use coal and fossil fuels. This is true in areas like California and Texas, but that is not true yet for Iowa. Some environmental impacts of solar usage include that there are no greenhouse gas emissions created. The areas can also be built on places such as abandoned mining areas and non-used existing transportation areas. Currently, most solar fields are built in agricultural land, which takes up a lot of space for these solar farms. This can lead to land degradation and habitat loss for lots of native species. Water is also needed for cooling the solar thermal plants. This is a problem because many states with enough sun to charge the solar fields are in very arid climates, such as California and Texas. And materials that are used to build the panels use fossil fuels to be created. Some social concerns for solar usage include the risk of depletion of local water sources, animal and plant species that may be removed from their homes during the building of the solar fields or the solar plants. There can also be a glare from the solar panels, which is one of the biggest risks because this could blind animals like birds, and it can even blind traffic from roads. This could lead to lots of collisions. Thermal oil is also used at the plants, and if handled incorrectly or if something extraordinary happens, employees could be burned or injured.
Hydropower can be a great economy booster. The market is moving away from non-renewable energy due to the controversy and the fact that it's, non-renewable. So, instead of market-focused non-renewable energy sources, there is a new interest in renewable energy. This includes hydroelectric power. According to Energy News Network, Iowa lawmakers are wanting to move forward with hydropower as a big source of energy. In fact, a $400 million hydropower plant is being installed in central Iowa. This will help mitigate energy costs in the area. Another economic pull towards hydropower is, in 2005, Congress passed a federal level bill that gives hydropower projects a tax credit, which increases an incentive to invest in hydropower. Now, the environmental impacts of hydropower are pretty interesting. Hydropower can help provide flood control and irrigation support within the area, and it can also provide access to clean drinking water. It's a clean source of energy, so it doesn't directly produce greenhouse gases, and it's renewable, which means it technically will not ever run out. However, because of dead organic matter getting caught in turbines, there is a side effect which produces greenhouse gases. Hydropower plants can also negatively impact fish migration and actually kill fish, like salmon, which swim upriver. The plants can also change the water temperature, chemistry, and river flow, as well as silt loads in the area. As for social concerns, hydropower can provide a few positive social outcomes. Hydropower is creating massive amounts of new jobs. New production plants create jobs within the renewable energy sector. The reservoirs also provide recreational opportunities like fishing and boating for local citizens. Unfortunately, these hydropower plants can cause forced human relocation due to the location of the hydroelectric power plants and the effects those have on the physical environment.
So as we have discussed in this video, there are better ways that Iowa could be utilizing their energy sources. One way would be to reinvest in nuclear energy. Another would be to utilize agricultural waste for biomass energy, and another would be to combine agricultural and animal farming with solar farming. By doing this, we can help reduce the greenhouse gas emissions that we are producing and use better sources of energy. And these are the resources that we use to find this information. Thank you for watching this video.